Doctor, one of the things we wanted to discuss today is the pandemic that has ravaged Kenya, especially. And I'm not talking about COVID-19. I'm talking about drug and substance abuse. You know, the 26th of June is an international day, and it's a day that globally people recognize drug trafficking, illicit drug trafficking, drug abuse. And there were some statistics in the Saturday Standard of that weekend that actually 5 out of 10 people living in the coast have abused substances. That's 1 out of every 2 people. That's half of everybody there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say it's accurate in many ways because we know
Yes.
the Nakada report that we recently got. They said
Yes.
that 4.9 million Kenyans
Yes.
have used substances at one incident or another.
So what is a substance? What are these things that people are actually abusing?
Okay. Olivia, thank you first for inviting me here today.
Karibu.
And I would just want to say that a substance, or we call them psychoactive substances, are substances including the alcohol and other drugs that usually affect the brain. They have effect of the brain. They affect how you think, how you feel, how you react. So it's a substance that people use and has an effect on the brain.
So what makes it illicit?
It is actually, there's no substance that is licit.
Okay.
Sometimes it's because of the government and some policies that make it legal or illegal, but
Yes.
all the drugs are illicit.
But I drink a lot of coffee.
I know.
In fact, I loved when I was with the team at Sassini. We went to their Kipkibe factory. You know, tea and coffee, love it. Those are substances.
I know. And actually, there's a lot of controversy about the coffee being in the group of psychoactive substances. But we
Yes.
know that for real, coffee is a stimulant.
I could not do the show without it. But when we're talking about substances that are illegal,
Yeah.
are there categories? Or is it just all of these are illegal? Ukishikwa nayo, jela, end of view, kwisha.
Let me say this. There are many substances and people classify them whichever way they want to classify
Yes.
them.
Yes.
But us in the medical field, we
Yes.
classify it into actually five main big categories.
Yes.
Starting with what we call stimulants,
Yes.
which stimulate your brain, stimulate your body.
Yes.
And in that group of stimulant, it's where your coffee first starts fixing.
That's where the energy comes from.
Yeah, we have the caffeine there. We have the nicotine, that's the cigarettes. We have the cocaine, and of course some drugs we use to manage our patients, the amphetamines
Yes.
and methamphetamines.
Yes.
Those are drugs used in the medical field.
And they're stimulants.
That is one of the big group of the psychoactive substances. The
Yes.
other one is the opposite now, the depressants. And this is where now the most used depressant is there. The alcohol falls in that category. And of course we have the barbiturates, the benzodiazepines.
Yes.
These are drugs that we use in the hospitals.
Yes.
Then the other category that we have are the opioids.
Yes.
Opioids are usually the painkillers.
Yes.
The heroin is not a painkiller, but initially it came up as a painkiller, but
Yes.
then it was misused. So the
Yes.
heroin, the morphine, the codeine,
Yes.
they are in that group of
Okay.
the opioids.
Yes.
Then we have the hallucinogens.
Yes.
Some of the date drugs that the people use, the molly, the LSD, the mushroom, they're in
Yes.
that group.
Yes.
Then lastly is, according to the medical, they are a group that is not categorized, including the bang. The marijuana is not in any category because it can have both
Effects depending on the
So,
strain or depending on how your body reacts. to it.
depending on how you use and even the amount.
Okay.
Actually, depending on the amount.
Okay.
So the bangi and the even the mirror, the cat is in that group.
Yes.
The dissociative anesthetic like ketamine, they are also in that group.
Yes.
So that's how we usually classify them.
Thank you, Doctor. Now I am joined by Dr. Waturi Kibuti from Chiromo Hospital Group to discuss Kenya's drug problem. And please understand that yes, we do have a drug problem, and especially for the sake of our children and the youth of this country. Daktari, what were those 5 categories again?
Oh, Olivia, I talked about the stimulants, the depressants, the hallucinogens, opioids, and Others.
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 Yes.
Yeah.
And you said cat is there, bangi is there under others.
And others.
Because they
yeah,
have
yeah.
various effects depending on how much you
Exactly,
take,
yeah.
the quantity, your body, how it reacts, etc.
Yeah, the impact of the brain is different. Yeah.
I'm a mother. Luckily, my son is only 4 years old. But I have friends who've taken their kids, to university. I mean, I just started late. But at my age, a lot of my friends, they're getting IDs for their kids. They're sending their kids off to college. How do you recognize that your child or loved one is using drugs?
Thank you. There are many red flags, which ideally you should not miss them when they come up. But for a child who is going to school or in the university or whatever level, when you suddenly see your child losing interest in school, losing interest in activities they used to enjoy before, that's a red flag.
Yes.
If it's your loved one who has been enjoying waking up and going to work and suddenly now they don't feel like going to work,
Yes.
that's a red flag also.
Yes.
We also know that when you see a physical change of health,
Yes.
maybe someone suddenly doesn't have motivation and is weak and does not want even to wake up,
Yes.
that's also a red flag.
Okay.
We also know that sometimes you might observe that as someone start neglecting their even grooming, their health, they are not so much particular about their health. Something
Yes.
might be happening. And sometimes, also we find the people who are using substances, for you to know, is the sudden mood swings.
Okay.
All of a sudden, a child is irritable, is agitated. Those are some of the things that should warn you that something is wrong. Then they start asking for money, which they cannot explain where they are taking, or things start missing in the house and
True.
you really don't know where they went, because
Yes.
maybe they are selling them to maintain their habit.
Yes.
Sometimes it's because you observe that they start having social withdrawal.
Okay.
It's their children who are engaging in family events.
Yes.
All of a sudden, they don't want to engage in family events. So
Or the new
social
group of friends.
withdrawal. Yeah, or new group of friends, which they don't want to explain so much about them. They are keeping like a gap. You
Yes.
don't want mommy to know so much about these friends. Then those are red flags which we should not ignore.
Excellent. Oh my goodness, there are just so many.
Yeah, there are so many. Actually, the list is endless. But as long as you know your child and you know your loved one,
Yes.
it's very hard to miss when they change.
So at
Yeah.
Chiromo, is it also a treatment and rehabilitation facility?
Yeah, Chiromo Group of Hospital is basically a mental hospital group.
Yes.
And we usually have both treatment and rehabilitation services.
I'm glad you've spoken about mental health because you were a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So you have to have your first degree first and then go into psychiatry as a specialization.
Yeah, I did the internal, it's called MBS, it's MBCHB.
Yes.
Actually, is the undergraduate in the
Yes.
University of Nairobi. Then later went to the county, practice kidogo as a
Yes,
doctor. Then I
yes.
felt I needed to go back and do something that I had a passion in.
Yes.
So I went back still to the University of Nairobi and
Yes.
did the master's now in psychiatry.
What is the difference between psychology and psychiatry?
Psychology deals with therapy, talk therapy.
Yes.
Psychiatry is medicine. Yeah,
I'm a psychologist.
I know.
Am I not a talk therapist? No, but more seriously, what are the causes? From your patients, from your research, from your understanding, what leads somebody to substance abuse?
Olivia, let me say this. There's no specific, we cannot place a finger on what actually causes drug abuse or addiction. But we know, because, you might have interacted with people who, they use substances and they don't get addicted, and some use and they get addicted. So what we know, and we are very sure, is that there are many risk factors that predisposes you to the use of substances and to getting you addicted. And I'm going to break them into 3 groups.
Yes.
So that we are able to understand them better. Of course, the number one is the person, the individual person, your characteristics as a
Yes.
person. And there are things you as a person can make you use substances more than the other person.
Can I just stop you there for 1 minute? When you talk about characteristics, I am obsessed with control. And the reason why I find it very difficult to abuse substances is because by doing that, I lose that control. So that is just my mother's lucky DNA and upbringing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because of that, and I've seen a lot of people who are, not obsessed with control, but who value control in whatever they do, whether it's in their fitness, their education, their work, their interactions, that they tend to lean away from abusing substances because the substance then takes control.
Yeah.
Next.
Thank you. At least you've made my work easier. Yeah,
Thank
as
you.
part of the individual is your personality. Your personality is something that you're born with. We know that there are people with two personalities which are very predisposing to substance use, and this is borderline personality disorders and antisocial personalities disorders. And for you to know that a person has those personalities, you have to have interacted with them for a long time to understand them. Moving away, still,
But no.
Yep.
Don't move away just yet. You know, for the uninitiated, my first degree is in psychology with a minor in chemical dependency. So I understand what you're talking about from DSM.
Yeah.
But to the uninitiated, what does that mean?
What it means, Olivia, is that there are people with this personality, the enduring trait in themselves.
Yes.
Like when I talk about the antisocial personality disorders, these are people who don't care. They don't have that control, and they don't even mind hurting themselves or
They don't
hurting
have
others.
empathy.
They don't have empathy. They lack the empathy, and they engage in very risky behaviors, and they don't feel a pinch. They can kill a cat and not even blink an eye. So it's in them. So engaging in substances is not a big deal to them.
Okay.
So the other thing about a person is your genetic makeup. Suddenly enough, there are some genes which predisposes you, and there are some genes also which protects you from using substances. We know like alcoholism runs in the family,
It
and
does.
that does not mean that if alcoholism is in your family that you're going also to be in that mkondo ya alcoholism. It just means you're more predisposed, but we know that some families, they have the genetic component that predisposes them to alcoholism.
Yes.
And we've seen this amongst our friends and our patients also. We also know in the individual characteristics, stress.
Okay.
Stress.
Yes.
And currently with the COVID, we have experienced a big shot.
Can I tell you one thing? I was walking with my son and my nanny the other day.
Yeah.
And there was just in the afternoon. You know, I only work Saturdays, so I can do that. And there was a bench along the street. I mean, where we live, and there was a man who was sitting there, you know, enjoying a cigarette. You know, and I told her, I said, you know what? Hey, it must be nice or interesting to be able to just sit on a bench during the week in the afternoon and just light up. I mean, someone must have. And I said, actually, Mama Ray, she calls me Mama Ray, sio iyo ni stress. And she went on to say, ukimwona, which is a long Swahili explanation. I can't get into it right now, but it made me think that actually you're right. Stress is a major contributor to substance abuse.
Exactly, Olivia. Stress is a major contributor of substance use, because when you're stressed, you don't know how to deal. We know your brain is handled to handle certain amount of stress. When you get past that elastic limit,
Yes.
then you start looking for substances to just make you calm down or feel relaxed. So stress is a major contributor to substance use. And sticking closely to stress, there are some mental disorders that you as a person, if you have,
Yes.
you're more predisposed to using substances. And I'll just give a few examples.
Yes.
We know that those people with bipolar mood disorders, they are very prone to using substances. Those people with ADHD,
Yes.
attention deficit hyperactivity disorder,
Yes.
those people with anxiety disorder,
Yes.
depression,
Yes.
and even schizophrenia.
Yes.
Those police or any person who has gone through PTSD,
Yes. Post-traumatic
traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Also, that one predisposes them to using more substances as a way of either self-medicating or just trying to not deal with the issues they are dealing with.
As we're looking out for our youth, as we're looking out for our children, would you recommend that we have conversations with our children, or we put them in touch with professionals who can have conversations? Because maybe parents don't know that their child has ADHD. Maybe a wife doesn't know that the husband has PTSD, and any other acronym we can come up with. So would you recommend that as Kenyans and as a society, we speak more to each other and we speak more to professionals?
Yeah, actually, the first thing that we need to start doing as Kenyans is to stop stigmatizing mental illnesses, because no one is immune. No one is immune to mental illness. So anybody, despite your age, your socioeconomic status, anybody can get mental health issues. So the best thing is for us to stop the stigmatization and to focus more on communication and sorting the people who have issues that need help.
Hello, Direct. I'm Olivia Otieno. I'm waving, right? I'm Olivia Otieno, and I'll be playing your requests from 1 p.m. So share them on social at SpiceFMKE. But I'm still with psychiatrist Dr. Waturi Kibuti from Chiromo Hospital Group discussing Kenya's drug problem. Daktari, we know categories tano, lakini causes tulisahau gani?
Oh, thank you, Olivia. We've forgotten to say lack of parental support,
Yes.
lack of parental actually supervision. The parents are too busy looking for money, and the children are lacking reliable people to guide them and talk to them.
That's why I only work Saturdays.
I know.
Got all the time during the week to ensure my son does not develop a drug addiction problem.
Okay, that's very good for you. Then we have.
I look at how the is like, don't even talk to me. We're no longer friends. No, but it's true. Lack of that interaction because we are biological
Yep.
parents. But parenting is a whole other ball game, isn't it?
Yeah, people are very busy. It's not like the traditional time where we used to, a child was brought up by the village.
Everybody was in the business of that child. You knew at any minute, like GPS, where your child was, what they were doing, what they ate, who they upset because that person chopped at them. You knew all of that stuff. But now, you
It
can't
is not
even talk
happening
about
anymore.
somebody's child. You
No.
see something, you're not even allowed to say you saw something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How can that be mitigated? In all your experience as a psychiatrist working at Chiroma Group of Hospitals, how can parents parent?
I think it's about just the parents being more conscious. As much as parents are looking for money, they should not forget that they're parents in the first place. They're looking for money for those children.
Yes.
So you have to create out of your busy schedule. There's nothing that is busy more than your children or the people around you. So you just have to create time consciously just to monitor what your children are doing and who they're interacting with. Period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other
yeah.
cause?
The other cause, of course, we know is peer pressure.
Okay.
Especially amongst the children and the adolescents. They want to fit in their groups. They want not to appear as the outside child. They want to
Yes.
fit in.
Yes.
Of course, then the exposure. We know children, as much as we talk to them so much, children learn by looking and observing. So when you as a parent or your older siblings are there taking alcohol and they are watching and they are going to maintain that.
Yes.
So children observe what we are doing. So it's up to us and adults to do what is right. Lastly, advertisement. We are advertising these things as if it's cocoa or chocolate.
Yes,
You
yes.
see advertisement. You're driving with your child on the highway, and
Yes.
all the billboards are about sijui Kenya cane or whiskey, which brandy. It's not. We are not going anywhere with such advertisement
Yes,
for the
yes,
children.
yes.
And lastly, before I forget,
Yes.
trauma. Trauma is very key, especially childhood trauma.
Okay.
Some things that people don't even think about it. When a child go through sexual abuse, physical
Yes.
abuse,
Yes.
emotional neglect when they are
Yes.
young,
Yes.
that one later might impact in their use of substances later in life.
Parents, parent, be present, understand your children, communicate with your children. Peer pressure is a huge, huge problem. And then trauma, right?
Yeah.
What are the effects of these categories, of these 5 categories of drugs on every aspect of this individual's life?
Okay. We know there are many global effects. I'll just talk globally.
Yes.
The effect of substance use at a
Yes.
global perspective.
Yes.
We know there's a loss of productivity for whatever reason, both at school and at work.
Yes.
Then there's increased rate of HIV, TB, and hepatitis, especially because of the drugs which are being injected.
Okay.
Increased accidents, because when all the drugs, we know, all the psychoactive substances, they disinhibit
Yes.
your brain and you have poor judgment, so
Okay.
increased rate of accidents.
Yes.
We've seen increased overdoses and suicide because of the drugs that have been used.
Yes.
And of course there's also increased crime
Okay.
rates, either because of the drug or as they are looking for money to sustain their drug habit.
Okay.
Also that one has increased. So
And this is
yeah.
irrespective of those categories, whether it's a stimulant, whether it's a depressant, whether it's about, okay.
Yeah. It cuts across.
Are there some that are worse than others? Because you talked about how, because you're a psychiatrist, so you're not a lawyer, you're not a policeman, you're not a judge. You're not the person who's going to be incarcerating this person. You're the person who's going to treat this person. But in your understanding, are there categories where someone starts with this and ends up at that, or is it just across the board?
Okay, there's no lesser devil, Olivia. There's no
Okay.
lesser devil, but we know that all the drugs, all the psychoactive substances that are used, they act using one way. They interact your reward system with the brain. The reward system is the
Yes.
system that usually reinforces our memories and pleasure about life. So they
Yes.
interfere with that system in the
Yes.
brain. And at the end of the day, whether you're using alcohol, whether you're using heroin or cocaine, it interrupts the reward system. It hijacks it, and it changes the way your brain perceives pleasure.
So the excitement and fun and feeling of euphoria I get after a 10K will be diminished.
Of course.
I'm Olivia Otieno, and I'll be playing your requests like the one I've just received from a guy who says that he is a first-time listener. Karibu, most welcome, and that he's loving the conversation and the music. Alex Lumadede. I've received your request and I'll be playing it from 1 p.m. So keep sharing your requests on social at SpiceFMKE. But I'm still with psychiatrist Dr. Waturi, highlighting how you can identify drug use in your children and your loved ones. So, Dr. before I let you go, what are the treatment options? Please tell me that there is hope.
Yes, there is hope and a lot of hope. But even before I give you the hope, is for us to appreciate that addiction is a chronic relapsing brain disease.
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you what that means by the end of when I'm telling you about the treatment options. There are treatment options, both inpatient and outpatient.
Yes.
And the option depends with the drug that you're using.
Yes.
Whether addiction is present or not.
Yes.
Or whether, and if you're suffering from any psychological effect from the drug use.
Yes.
And the goals of treatment basically is to try and reduce the use, the seeking and the use of the drug.
Yes.
We want to treat you so that we are able to control the withdrawal,
Yes. Yes.
complications of the drug,
Yes.
to rehabilitate, to prevent relapse, and to maintain the abstinence.
Okay.
So those are the goals of treatment, and the treatment is either biological, psychological, or social.
Yes.
Biological is where we use the medication, and medication is usually to reduce the craving,
Yes.
to reduce the side effect, as I've said,
Yes.
and of course to maintain you at the level that we want you to be at.
Okay.
Then the psychological, about the CBT, I know
Yes.
you are a psychologist, you know the cognitive behavior therapy.
I do.
Basically to change the way you think about the things happening around
And the
you.
associations.
And the associations. Of course, there is key behavior therapy to show you how to cope, to teach you coping skills. Because
Yes.
most people, they abuse substances because they lack a better coping mechanism.
Kimbieni,
The-
kujani na
the-
mimi, 6 a.m. every morning we are out.
Yes, better coping mechanism. Then, of course, then there's the family therapy. The family, for any drug use or addiction, the family has to be on board because the families need to understand the whole perspective of substance use. Because
Yes.
addiction is not a moral issue, Olivia. It's not
Okay.
a moral issue. So once the family understands that, then the
It is
support
an illness.
it's a chronic relapsing
Daktari
brain
amesema,
illness.
umesikia.
Yeah, it's not a moral issue, and people should not be punished for being addicts.
Yes.
At work, at home, or at school, people should not be punished. They should be supported
And treated.
Of course, and treated. Of course, we are there to do the treatment, and of course, then the rehabilitation. And
Yes.
rehabilitation is just a way of starting the treatment
Okay.
and maintaining you on other ways. So there's a very high hope of treatment.
Yes.
So we need to bring those people to us, and we'll be able to manage them at any time.
Where are you?
Trauma Lane, Bustani.
Where is Bustani?
Bustani is in Lavington.
Okay. Are
Yeah.
there any other facilities?
Yeah, Braeside and
Yes.
Westlands. People are very familiar about the Westlands, but
Yes.
also there's Braeside and the Bustani. Then we have two rehabilitation centers, one in
Yes.
Rimuru and the other in Gong.
What, as I let you go, what causes relapse from your experience working at these centers? What are some of the primary causes of relapse? Because someone has said, okay, I have a problem. They've come to you at Chiromo Hospital, Bustani, but they've now relapsed. What are the primary causes of that?
The primary cause of relapse, it's good that you're getting into the groove. Addiction is a chronic relapsing. And it's because the brain, once you use the substances,
Yes.
the brain forms memories which they don't go.
There's
brain,
such pleasant associations.
Exactly, the association, the triggers. When you even the songs you play, you might even remember a song that when you're taking your drug, you listen to a certain song, and when that song plays, then you have the cravings.
Yes.
So the triggers are there, the people, the environment, your family, and the stresses are going nowhere. So the triggers are many. That's why it's a chronic relapsing. You need support all along, even when you've not been using for 5 years.
Yes.
Does not mean that you can relapse. You can
So you're not
relapse.
cured.
You're not
You're
cured.
living with addiction.
It's a chronic, like diabetes or hypertension. It's the same issue with addiction. It's a chronic thing that needs support all your life.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate you having been here with me today, and have yourself the most amazing Saturday.
Thank you.